signal now for when I'm needed. But when that light hits the sky, it's not just a call. It's a warning to them.
Yes, sir. Welcome to the Gotham Chronicles Beyond the Bat Signal. I'm your host, Dominic Unica. Join me as we dive into the depths of Batman's lore, dissecting the Rogues Gallery, and uncovering the stories of iconic vigilante known as the Dark Knight. Now, thank you very much for tuning to today's episode. We have a very special guest. It is the head librarian, the host of, I'd say, my favorite podcast, the Batman Book Club. And he's not only that, he's also senior contributor to a very famous website, Batman on Film, none other than Mr. Ryan Lauer. Ryan, welcome.
Dominic, thank you. I appreciate the invite, but I really want you to settle expectations here. That was too that was way too nice.
No, man. Listen, if people tune in, listen, I'll listen anytime you release an episode. I've been since day one listening to it, and you do such a good job. You've had quite a few guests on your show, and I think I'm going to get into that in just a second. But before I begin, I'm going to kind of take a page out of your book. So
Okay.
You normally start your podcast with what's your favorite story.
Mhm.
Now, I'm not going to do that exactly, but I'm going to ask you what is your favorite Batman film, animated or live action, that of all time?
Great question. And I feel like it's something that us Batman nerds we love. Like we can discuss this stuff all day, and I feel like with my show and I ask favorite Batman story, it's always, I think there's something about that question itself that we all love to hear. Like our ears perk up a little bit. We lean in a little bit more because it's just, I don't know. It's just, it's magnetic. I don't know how you want to describe it, but mine is The Dark Knight. It's not, it's no hot take. I don't have any hot takes. I think a lot of people's are The Dark Knight, but The Dark Knight, it was just a blend of everything that I want, I think, in a Batman movie, and then spearheaded by Heath Ledger's Joker.
Heath Ledger's Joker, when I think any of us walked out, I remember with my friends, just like, what did we just watch? Like, we just knew we witnessed greatness, and we didn't even know it going in. You kind of had an idea,
Yeah.
and I think you were pumped up about it, but and I remember, I know you've mentioned on your show that you've seen it several times, and including myself, just watching that movie, and you watch it nonstop, and that movie itself garners respect. It's not just one of those films that you put on the background. It is, you sit on the couch and you respect that film. It is so good.
I was fortunate that earlier this year at a theater about 2 hours south of where we live was actually playing it in the theater because they were doing something about Sundays. I forget what it was called. And they're just playing, older movies. I say older, and it's 2008, but you know what I mean? Stuff that's not new in the theaters right now. Then they do that on Sundays, and they were doing The Dark Knight. So I told my fiance, I was like, I think I really want to go because I haven't seen it on a theater screen since 2008. And man, when that movie was done, I just looked at her and I was like, oh my God, this is like the greatest movie of all time. I just can't, no matter how many times I've seen it, it still just gets me. I still laugh at the right moments. I still dissect the right moments. And I think I'd said on Batman on Film with Bill actually last year when we talked about the movie, that there's just not many things that people get their two favorite characters in a thing together. And I used to really I don't know, nobody's ever gonna have Iron Man and Garfield in the same movie together. And that might be, you know what I mean? And here I am, Batman's probably my favorite, and then Joker is my next favorite, and got him in the same movie. And it's the best portrayals of either one, in my opinion. So it just all works.
Bale nailed it out of the park, and he doesn't get enough credit for the type of job he did, right? He really brought out the billionaire playboy, even in Begins. But even in Ledger, and like even like the supporting cast was so good.
Yeah, the story was great. I mean, everything about that movie is so freaking good.
And
Oh, I love it. I could talk about that all day.
I, me too. Like, and now I'm like, oh man, hey, did you like? I don't know if you were. I'm certain that you were like probably like, okay, tuning into Batman on Film, because like there was all these like little campaigns. Like if you call this number,
Yeah,
like you'll get.
yeah.
And like there was like newspapers. Like, did you ever get that mail too? Because I'm like, I got a huge thing of mail. Like in like, what the hell is this? I didn't expect
I
it to be that much.
I didn't, but there was about an hour and a half from where I lived. There was a campaign stop for Harvey Dent, which is part of their
Wow.
marketing thing of, people line up the streets and they had the Harvey Dent, whatever. And I really thought about going, but it was like I worked early in the morning. I was in college at that time and it wasn't able to happen. I'm like, damn,
I know.
wish I would have made that happen.
It's you even feel bad
Wish.
as at that early time to take
Yeah.
like a day off when it's
Mm-hmm.
especially when you're first starting off. Oh man, I love The Dark Knight
Because
so
you're
good.
young and silly and you just think, no, I gotta go to work, in the sense where it is now. It's like, no, I didn't have to go to work that day. Like I could have called in sick,
Yeah,
but whatever. It's
yeah,
okay. I'll be all right.
yeah. I know. I guess we'll get into it.
Okay.
So, okay, so it's no secret that
Hmm.
not only do you do the Batman book club, but I guess where you started was with Batman on Film. So, I guess it's how did you get started with Batman on Film?
Oh, it was way back in the Batman Begins days. I'll try and make this brief. But Batman Begins days is I was looking up stuff I'd come across that there's a new Batman movie being made. And so I was looking up news for that. I think it was like movies.com I was going to, but then somehow within that I kept coming across Batman on Film. And so then I started to go to that site and I just started that became like a daily multiple times a day because there's a lot of cool information coming. This was, early days of the internet, earlier days of the internet, like 2003. And so I just kind of became an avid follower
Yeah,
constantly. Would email in questions when the head honcho, Bill Remy, would, and he'd ask for questions and answer them and stuff. And sometimes, he'd get to mine and because he had a massive influx of emails and stuff. Well, in 2017, I think there was a Scott Snyder's All-Star Batman line. Bill was reviewing it, but at one point he wasn't he's just too busy. He wasn't able to get to like reviews. And so he just kind of sent something out of if there's anybody that's interested in reviewing it. And I'd written for another website doing reviews and my job, I'd written all stuff. So I just, I emailed him and said I'd like to. And he was like, all right, cool, you got it.
wow,
And I just started reviewing comics from there. And then as more Batman comics come up, then more, opportunities to write more reviews. And then randomly, like Ryan Haas and Justin Kowalski were doing the podcast, and they needed somebody for a podcast one time, so they asked if I'd be interested. So I dipped my toes in there, dipped it in. It was a couple months, dipped it in again, and then I think it was the Aquaman review. Um, with a buddy, Garrett Grev of mine, who's also involved with Batman on Film. We just started podcasting then with Batman on Film, and then from there, just kind of became normal.
yeah.
Um, and then it worked out that like that Bill then had me on sometimes, and then it started to become our schedules were linking pretty good, so we both were podcasting with each other quite a bit, and that's the fast forward version, I guess.
That's pretty sweet because I do remember distinctly, like I remember seeing your name pop up in reviews because I used to read Bill's reviews, and then I noticed that like it was
Hmm.
just, and then Peter Vera,
Oh yeah, the
is a
Italian.
the Italian. I can relate. I'm Italian too,
Oh, good for you.
and I'm like, it's like yes,
It's your
uh,
in.
it's fine. Yeah, that's the end. But when I noticed it was, and I'm like, oh, I'm noticing a couple new voices coming in, and I remember you were saying curses, like that's what stuck out to me. Like the,
Oh,
it's like
oh
when you
man,
first
good old curses.
curses, like, and I'm like, like the fact that
Curses.
you could go all the way back to that, and I'm like, I know that reference right away. So good.
Oh,
Um,
bless you.
yeah, it was awesome, and I remember like, and then that journey, and then it kind of just led into the
Yeah.
Batman book club. Now,
Yeah.
like, because when you started that, like,
Hmm.
it was what back in right when the pandemic hit.
Yeah. I
Was that
think
like
it
coincidence, or were you like, hey, it's a pandemic, let's try
no,
this?
no, no. I was actually So I'd been wanting to do more podcasting, but Batman on Film was covering, movies and TVs and everything. I'm like, well then, I'm just some fan. I don't need to start something like I need to find an avenue.
Mhm.
And so it's like, oh, I'd like to talk more about comics because I've got a library of comics that I want to talk more about comics. And that was like an avenue where there weren't like devoted like weekly episodes of Batman on Film. Look at the title of the website, Batman on Film. Like
Yeah.
the focus is Batman movies. So like, okay, maybe this would be an avenue I could explore. And when I asked around with a lot of people, and I kind of kept getting too intimidated by it, and everybody just kept telling me like, dude, you just got to launch it. Just start. You'll figure it out. It's not as intimidating as you think. And so it was actually in January of that year, maybe February, I was wanting to bank some episodes. So I started recording episodes then. And then I
Oh, wow.
launched it the first week of March. And I always talk about it launched the week that Tom Hanks got COVID, because that was like the game changer, in a sense, at least in the US. Everybody's like, "Oh my gosh, it's America's dad, Tom Hanks. Like he's got COVID. This has got to be real." And I think I was actually recording an episode with Ryan Haas, like when that came out. And then that was an episode that like technical difficulties. Everybody has one, and that's my
Yeah.
one that it was a botched recording, but that was all right.
Oh
So yeah, that's
no.
actually, I mean, that's in, yeah, I don't know that I also answer questions longly. I can never just be like, yes, no. I feel
No,
like,
but I
well, let me
appreciate
tell you,
that.
Dominic, I'm going to give you a lot of context here. But just like,
I,
you're not asking for that.
no, no, it's exactly like that's amazing because you're giving like some background, like especially when it comes to like how you started. Because I feel like when disregard the whole podcast, I think it's just more like everything about Batman. Like there's so many aspects of Batman that you can cover, right? Like
Oh yeah.
whether it's books, film, TV shows, right? Just to name a
Hmm.
few. And then like I know that you guys will go into um what is it? What's the word Bill uses where it's like right out to start off the show. Ah, anyway,
Witty
it
banter. I
witty
don't
banter.
know.
That's it. That's like I'm having a brain fart right now. And it'll be about toys. And I'm like, man,
Mm.
like and like I could just like my wife, she knows I have quite a few toys. Like McFarlane's action
Oh
figures, not
yeah.
toys. Um,
Exactly.
and it's like, and I just got the Bane and Batman one. But like, and
Oh,
it's like,
nice. The
yeah,
Nightfall
but
one.
like, you guys go into like the Woody Banter, like, man, I'm like, you guys are talking about this. So I'm like, I'm searching it up nonstop, right?
Hmm.
So but like anyway, I don't know. I was gonna get into because like I was like, yeah. So the Batman book club, like you focusing
Hmm.
on that, and like there's a lot of preparation when it comes to it. I'm assuming, right? Because like
Yeah.
just to read it, like I just finished. I read it on Hoopla, thanks to you actually.
Yeah.
Um,
Hoopla. Greatest
and
app of all time.
oh man, and like so I just finished Dark Victory. Like
Dark
I saw it on
Victory.
Hoopla, but I read it in hardcover now,
Yeah.
and I'm like, for him to read a book. It's like that's time. Like that takes time,
Yeah.
right? So
Yeah.
like all the preparation, like and when it comes to managing the guests, and I guess it's like, and you're bi-weekly, I'm assuming, right? Like I guess 3 episodes a month around there.
So
Or
yes, like that's kind of the sweet spot right now is almost like an every 10 days. So the wrap ups that Pete and I do is talking about all new Batman comics that come out that month. Because we're privileged via Batman on Film, we're able to get early review copies of comics to read. And so I always want that on the very last day of every single month. I don't know why OCD just kicked in and I'm like, last day of every month, this episode gets posted. And then usually like the 10th and the 20th, I aim for at least around there to do episodes with others. Sometimes I get more motivated and excited, and things just happen to
yeah,
where there ends up being like three instead of two episodes in addition to the wrap ups and everything. There's one point it's like it was weekly for a little while. That started to get crazy.
yeah,
Like that started to get a little tough. So I was like, okay, got to dial it back. Can only do this when I really know way in advance this is coming and I can, adjust scheduling. But I mean, the job and stuff, like what I do for work and everything, involves planning and foresight of like planning next month, the month after, and everything. So I think I just work better now with it all in scheduling.
yeah,
Like I've almost got a rough outline of the rest of this year jotted down to space it out because I always try to think too, like this is like a hobby. It's a hobby for other people.
Yeah.
People are taking time out of their schedule to just come and talk. So you need to be accommodating. And if
Yeah.
they have, a lot of people, they have kids and they have other events too that they're like, things happen. I can't commit to that now. And it's like, what, got to understand it. Okay,
Yeah.
real life happens
Yeah.
in a crazy amount of ways, and I got to be able to adjust.
Like, and when it comes to like even scheduling like long term, and it's like I just heard your most recent episode. I think it was episode 203.
Oh
I
wow,
was with Garrett Greb.
that's right,
Yeah.
Minnesotan.
So listen, he says the best state. So a story like that's got to be true. So
Yeah.
and it was something along the lines like, was it someone where you guys had that planned out a year in advance, just like you said? I'm pretty sure that's what you mentioned.
Yeah.
Which is to me incredible. Now, when it comes to like you interviewed Lee Bermejo,
Hmm.
um, um, uh, Kelly
Tom
Jones,
King,
and
Kelly
Tom
Jones,
King, and then
pinch me. Don't know how
uh,
those happened, but they did.
that's unbelievable. So, like, what's a type of preparation when it comes to someone like that? Like, do you get nervous? Like, because like those are big hitters, especially Lee Bermejo,
Um,
like that guy.
I'm not gonna say like puff out my chest or lie and think that it's not like a little intimidating, but I think so. When I was in college, I had a communications degree. Well, the biggest thing they teach you in that is speech,
Hmm.
talking. It's communication and
Yeah.
getting in front of people and talking. I did stuff in Chicago where I was in front of people and whatever. So it's like that really helped kind of shake loose the very um popular fear people have of speaking in front of others, speaking to others and whatever. As soon as you kind of like, brush that off, you start to get more comfortable with it. And I love interviewing.
Yeah.
Like if we flipped this right now and this is my show and I'm talking to you, I'd love it of like driving the conversation, like listening to you and just having a good conversation. And I just kind of do have thought that with them too. But my biggest intimidator is especially someone like Kelly Jones was do the work and refresh my memory on everything he did with Batman.
Yeah.
So that he's not talking to me and thinking this guy doesn't know what you know, Kelly's not looking at me and being like, this guy doesn't know what he's talking about.
Yeah.
I want to at least seem like credible. And the
Hmm.
same Bermeo, it's not that hard. He's got a smaller amount of Batman work, still quite a bit, but it's like I've been following him his whole career, so it's easy. Tom King, pretty much the same thing with Batman. Um, I guess that's just the biggest thing is to go into it being knowledgeable. I just try to make sure I'm as knowledgeable as possible, um, with anybody that gets fortunate enough to talk to with that.
Like, and it's no secret. I guess now that we're talking writers and artists,
Hmm.
right? Like
Hmm.
when I think about Lee Bermejo, I always go, holy smokes. Like
Yeah.
this guy, like everything ever since I think his first book with the I guess the Batman was Joker. Am I right? Like I remember
He
Joker vividly when he
he
released that book, but
actually there was a Batman Death Blow
oh,
story in maybe 2003 that he did
oh,
with Brian Azzarello. That might have been the first, and you can see there's that, and then in maybe 2005 or 2006 there was a book called Luther,
mhm.
and then
Yes.
2008 was Joker. He had Batman in the Luther story, Batman in the obviously in the Batman Deathblow story, and in both of those you could see like the trajectory of where he's going with his art in that. And then Joker was the one that like really, kind of catapulted him to mainstream. And I don't know if you keep up with like what kind of books you look. Have you seen his A Vicious Circle
I've seen
book?
images. I haven't followed along too much on
Holy
it, but it is next level.
yeah, his art in that when he says because I follow him on social media to excuse me, and it's been he says how long of a process this thing has been and it makes so much sense looking at the art he has in that. It's unreal.
The
He's
detail
so good.
blows.
Yeah.
It's so good. I like, and then I'll show my wife. I was like, like this is Libra mail. Like, look at these pictures. Look at
Yeah.
these pictures. And then one Christmas, I'm opening up her gift, and the first gift is Batman Noel, and my
Yeah.
jaw dropped. Like, you knew? Like how did you remember? And anyway, so
You
that's the
talk about
book
it
I
in
read.
your sleep.
Oh yeah, it's
That's all
so
she knows.
good. I'm like, look, like I know you don't care, but look, like look
I
at this
always
page.
I always joke to my fiance. I don't know if you've seen the meme that's got the man and woman like laying in bed, and it's got the thought bubble with her. She's like, he's probably thinking about that other woman, and then in his
Yeah.
mind, it's just something totally nerdy of like McFarlane's new Batman feck here comes out tomorrow. Should I spend the money on? That's I tell her all the time, like, that's me.
Yeah.
Like, I don't have time for other nonsense. It's about
It's
Batman.
true. It's to a T.
Yeah,
Oh man, that's so funny. Now we were talking about artists and writers. Is
sure.
there one that you have not interviewed that you would love to interview?
Um, alive. I'm assuming that's your question. Like he's
Yes,
still living.
alive.
Yeah. Yeah. It'd probably be Jeff Loeb because okay, so you just picked up Dark Victory. Was that the first time that you'd read it?
No, this was the second. I
Okay.
read it on Hoopla, and then I
Okay.
wanted to read it in hard copy. And like I've read
Yeah.
Long Halloween back when I was in high school, like in '05. I don't know. Yeah, '05.
Yeah. Okay.
And but yeah, no, and then Dark Victory not too long ago. And he's so good now. I know that he's coming out
Yeah.
the last Halloween.
The last Halloween. Yeah. And so I mean, I wouldn't turn down interviews if I could with many Batman writers and artists and stuff, but it's like I was fortunate. I got to actually meet and like a nice 15, 20 minute one-on-one with Lee Bermejo the first time that I met him in person. And then I've gotten to, he's been on my show. I've gotten to talk to him two times on Batman on Film podcast. So it's like, okay, well, any opportunity I could with Lee, but he's one, it's like he feels like he said everything he has to say about stuff he's worked on in the past. So until something new Batman comes out, he's gonna like, I don't know that he'll be like, yeah, let's talk about Joker for the 100th time.
Yeah.
So did that. Tom King, I'd love to talk to more and everything, but it's like, oh, but anybody, Jeff Loeb, because I'd have so many questions for him because of like all of his work with Tim Sale. But I love The Long Halloween, obviously. Love
Yeah.
Dark Victory, like the Haunted Night, Halloween specials that he did. And then the last Halloween's coming, not to mention Hush. Like, I just think he'd be the one I'd love to sink my teeth into and just be like, tell me everything.
I am right there with you. I guess because I like I the whole Long Halloween series. I know that they're kind of it's a Long Halloween series. I get it. Like it's just
Yeah.
I know that you mentioned it where it's like, they're kind of reframing how they title it. Not a big
Yeah.
fan of it either.
Yeah. Okay.
But like, when it comes to Jeff Loeb as a writer, the
Hmm.
guy, like, he's got me hooked all the
Yeah.
time, right? Especially and it's always keep me guessing. It's a page turner all the time.
Hmm.
He's an excellent writer. Now, when what do you prefer? Is it Long Halloween or Dark Victory?
Long Halloween.
Long Halloween. Yeah,
Hmm.
me too. That movie that Tim Sheridan did, another interview that he did.
Yeah.
Like I
Tim
thought that
Sheridan's called me his friend. It's
yeah,
like, Tim, I actually just sent him a message today. Talked to him a little bit today. What a gentleman and a scholar. And
yeah,
I hope one day that he will be at a con. I'll get to go meet him and talk to him for a bit in
that'd be
person. I just
that'd
really
be
like that.
just to pick his brain and be like, hey,
Yeah.
so you're gonna be writing the Dark Victory for the animated film?
I
That'd
know
be my first
I ask him
question.
that. I ask him that all the time, and it was funny because when I talked to him, yeah, so on the Batman on film, and then when I've had him on mine twice, I think. And the first time I dropped out something of to people, listeners, if they had any questions for him, and there was maybe at least three or four that were just like, "You're gonna write Dark Victory," and he's just like,
Yeah.
"If they ask me, I will say yes. It's not up to me though." And it just blows my mind that they didn't immediately think like, "Okay, the Long Halloween, this was so good, let's do Dark Victory."
Yeah,
But I don't
I
know,
know.
maybe one day.
One day, fingers crossed.
Hmm.
Now time is precious, and I want to respect that. So I have a couple more questions.
Oh, no
Uh,
problem.
the next one I guess would be like where it's so we're talking about writers and artists, right?
Hmm.
And who would you classify as if you had to put a duo together? All star, you're writing Batman, and you have to draw Batman. Who are you choosing? You're the head of DC. Who are you choosing? Alive.
For a Batman story right now,
Yeah.
oh my gosh, that's a tough one. Lee Mayo and oh man. Ooh, let me hold on. So I've also been fortunate I mean, it's because of Batman on film, to strike up a good relationship and rapport with Sean Murphy. I'd asked him the first time that I talked to him, like a writer, because he said he wants to be like the writer and artist of his stuff anymore, and he said that he would break that rule for Paul Dini.
Wow. Yeah.
I think I would really like to see a Paul Dini Sean Murphy story. So maybe I would try and do that because Paul Dini, um, yeah, like, that guy, he just knows the voice of the Batman world. So, oh man, but I mean, I'd love another Lee Bermeo Batman story, but I can't think of a writer to pair him up with that would be new and fresh. So I'm gonna go with Paul Dini and Sean Murphy.
That is a I love the combo. I think Paul Dini, I mean, like he wrote, I mean, a lot of memorable BTAS
Hmm.
stories that we like they're classics. The Heart of Hush was I feel like it doesn't get the recognition it deserves. It was so good. And then he was
Time,
part of
can
the
I
art.
interrupt you right there and say
Yes.
thank you? Because I do love Hush, but for some reason, nobody talks about Heart of Hush. And I think Heart of Hush is better.
I
I
think it's way
just
better.
do.
I
I
think the
think the
art is
story is, yeah, exactly. And I love Dustin Nguyen's art, but I think the story is just so freaking good. And I like it, but I think it's better than Hush, and nobody talks about Heart of Hush. And it
no.
surprises me. It surprises me.
Is it the art? Because like I know the writing wise, it's like to me, that's my preferred story, right?
Hmm.
I love that the art is so good though. But
Hmm.
again, that story is one that just had me hooked and I kept on around like, what's gonna happen? What's gonna happen? Right.
Yeah.
And Dini, and then like you have him writing the video games. I mean, Arkham
Hmm.
Asylum and City, right? He was the writer for both those games, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah. And I think he did Night.
And
So I
like
think those three, yeah, he did those three. And Chef's Kiss.
so I know. Unbelievable, right? So I
Yeah.
mean, like that's a pretty sweet choice. I would definitely go with someone like that, and especially with even with Sean Murphy, because he's got
Hmm.
also a unique style where you're like, oh, I like it, right? But and
Yeah.
even as a writer, like he's really good. Clearly because he's got the whole White Knight saga going on, and I mean every single one of those books are can't miss.
Yeah.
Now we were talking about books actually, and Heart of Hush. Now, is there one book that you're shocked because you've had guests on?
Hmm.
You've passed 200 episodes. Are you
Hmm.
shocked that there's one book that has, or whatever, however many books that has not been chosen yet on to be on your like I guess to talk about on your show?
Uh, I mean, Heart of Hush a little bit since we just mentioned that, but actually, there's two issues that stand out to me. Because like you said, it's in past 200. So out the gate, the first three episodes of Batman Book Club were Year One, Long Halloween, Dark Victory, like heavy hitters.
Hmm.
Um, Not long down the line, Hush, and the White Knight series has been covered. So you start to think now of like, okay, so deeper cuts, but I still think for comic book fans, No Hope in Crime Alley is one that surprises me that nobody's picked that one and wanted to talk about it. And then Batman number 232, which is the debut issue of Ra's al Ghul, has never been chosen, talked about, brought up at all. And he's one that a lot of comic fans are such big fans of. And surprisingly, on my show, I think there's been two stories of 203 episodes. Two episodes are his stories, and that's it. And
Wow.
nobody's chosen his debut one, which I feel like everybody knows. And yeah, that both of those surprised me that nobody's picked.
And those are also classics, like on
Yeah.
Batman the Animated Series, right? Like
Yep.
I
Yeah.
remember them, and I'm like, man, like those are direct adaptations, and like they're excellent, well done. Thanks,
Yeah.
Paul Dean. I'm pretty sure he wrote them, but no, but I remember, and I mean, Ra's al Ghul, like he's quite the villain, right? But like and he's got quite the relationship with Talia, and there's like it's deep, right? And like
Yeah.
that's one
Yeah.
villain where like it's for me. I wouldn't consider him my top five, but he always
No.
intrigues me, right? His stories are very
Same.
intriguing, and it's kind of he's very similar to Batman, but like
Hmm.
his values or morals are very different, right?
Yeah.
Like
I'm with you on that. He's
yeah,
not one of my favorites. I'm not like, oh, so excited because he's here, but he doesn't treat me like, okay, what are they going to do with this? Because there's something about that where, like, as even though he's a villain, his his point isn't necessarily bad. It's his methods that are like wrong.
yeah,
And then the mutual respect that he has for Batman is such a weird, like, you're my enemy, but I respect you sort of thing and stuff. And so the relationship of the two always intrigues me. And especially whenever Denny O'Neil would write him because he was a co-creator,
hmm
and really zone in on that and stuff. I think I'd have to check, but I feel like he did the two-parter on the animated series. I think he wrote it,
Who,
adapted his
Danny
own.
O'Neill?
Yeah, I
Oh,
think he
okay.
adapted his own because it was, he took 232 and then maybe it was 241 or 244, something like that of the another issue and combined them into a two-parter, an influence rather than a flat out adaptation. But anyways, um yeah, there you go.
Yeah, like see, and then for like so I guess I look at Heart of Hush and I always think, I'm like, man, why isn't that like discussed? There's and then
Yeah.
Like then there's a lot more stories about with Paul Dini even that like I've yet to read. I'm still
Hmm.
on that journey. It
Hmm.
literally, like again, I give a lot of kudos to you because it's true. Like, and I'm sure a lot of your fans or people that follow along with you, it's like, man, like every time like, I listen to a show, I'm like, okay, well, this is the next book I'm gonna read, or this is the next book. Like I just read what was is it Pain and Prejudice
Yeah.
that you spoke highly about, so I just finished reading
Yeah.
that as well. And
Did you
another
like
one
it?
is, yeah, I loved it. It
Oh,
was a good Penguin
excellent.
story, right?
Good, good, good. Yeah.
And like then we're getting a different interpretation of Penguin where it's more of a mob leader when you see like the Penguin series coming out on
Yeah.
HBO. And I'm like so excited, but like Tom King is the one who's writing, is it Penguin Year One? No, yeah,
It's just the Penguin,
the Penguin.
I think.
Yeah.
Yeah. 12
And
issue series.
like that run based on you and Pete's monthly wrap up, like you guys have spoken so highly about it.
Yeah. Yeah.
So like that's one where I'm like, I'd love to like just get around to it. But
I think trade one of the first six issues. I not think it did just come out a couple weeks ago. Maybe check that app Hoopla
yeah.
if you haven't been diving in. And I totally understand it too of the privileged situation that Pete and I get by via Batman Film. We get to check out these issues, each month. But otherwise, I'm more of a like sometimes on non-Batman things, I wait until a trade comes out and just
Hmm.
read stuff then. Um, but that's yeah, I'd say check that one out as
Yeah.
soon like not as soon as you can, but that is good stuff. But I'm
Yeah.
glad you like Pain and Prejudice.
Unbelievable. That was a good recommendation. Same with
Yeah.
your Riddler Year One, with Paul Dano. Like he's the
Hmm.
one who wrote it. And I just,
Yeah.
man, like my wife was looking, she doesn't
Wild.
read comics. Like, I don't know if you get this where, it's like you'll kind of educate them as to what is going on, or like, yeah, this is the
Yeah.
book I'm reading. And like, but this one, she's like, because she loves the Batman. She
Hmm.
was like in love with that film. And she's like, I'll read that. Like, I would read that 100%. Right. Because she found like just that whole storyline and like
Yeah.
even watching the Penguin trailer, just like she's like, I can't wait to watch this. Like it's gonna be like on our rotation weekly.
So has she read the year one story yet?
No,
Not yet.
not yet.
Okay.
Not
Now
yet.
I did I applaud you, excuse me. The something I've mentioned to my fiance because she too is not like she's not some comic book reader or anything like that. She's not a nerd like us.
Yeah.
But is she never a negative like look of my passion toward her or anything either. Um, and she was a fan of the Batman. Um, but I've told her, I was like, would you ever be interested in, because she doesn't read comics, reading a Batman story, a comic, and then coming on the podcast so I can get a non, like almost a general audience perspective on this. And then to see that your 2 episodes ago, you released your wife's reaction to Batman 89, and she'd never seen it before, right?
Never seen it. And I was like,
Fascinating
and
avenue to tackle, I
oh
think.
yeah. And like her dad, he watched Adam West growing up.
Uh-huh.
He likes Batman 89. My dad, same thing. He's all about Adam West. But I'm like, hey Vic. I'm like, Vic's my wife's name. Victoria is my wife's name. So I was like, okay, come on. I'm like, we're gonna watch it. She's like, okay, let's watch it. And she loved it. She was like,
Mhm.
it's because she's so used to the Dark Knight, so she looks at
Mhm.
this one as like a little bit more like 80s, which
Mhm.
I mean,
Sure.
yeah,
I mean,
right.
she's right.
Yeah, she's right. And but she loved it. She was like, I just like her one of her favorite scenes. She's also very hopeless romantic. So she loves that love
Mhm.
story aspect. And then it was just more like the explosion. She's like, they didn't even have CGI in this. I'm like, no, like there's explosions. She's like, it looks so real. I'm like, it is. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah, getting a general audience like perspective as to these certain films,
Yeah.
right? And getting their idea about it, especially when it comes to a book, right? And just hearing like
Yeah.
her perspective of it, I think that'd be really interesting too. Yeah.
Yeah. I definitely got to be based on mood and rather than force
So wait,
because
did she
it's
agree?
like, yes,
Yeah.
but pending in the mood
Yeah.
to read a comic book. And so then it's also like, okay, well, I can't give The Long Halloween. Got to go for something smaller, less intimidating,
Oh yeah.
easily digestible, but a classic. And I got one in mind, but we'll see.
Yeah. Something short, 48
Hmm.
pages.
Yeah.
Okay, so got a couple more left.
Sure.
Now I guess I'll throw at you. Favorite interpretation of Batman in comics. So I mean, we've had quite a few people write Batman,
Hmm.
um, and draw Batman. Like, I guess it's like, what writer would you say is, yeah, they nailed this is who Batman is. This is my Batman.
Like that, I think I gotta stick with Jeff Loeb.
Yeah.
Um, because my preference is grounded solo Batman.
Hmm.
That doesn't mean if he shows up with Justice League that I instantly don't like it. It doesn't mean if he's got Robin as a sidekick that I don't like it. It's just if I have to go for something, if if it's just up to me, what do I prefer with Batman? Like
Yeah.
grounded solo. Um, and so I just think yes, Dark Victory has the inclusion of Robin, but I think it works really well. It still remains pretty grounded. Poison Ivy is always one that's going to be, little fantastical.
Hmm.
And there's, Solomon Grundy living in the sewers, but for the most part, like his stories, like the ones with Tim Sale, especially, they feel very like grounded, and they remain mostly the focus is in Gotham City, and it's just like those are all the ingredients for Ryan's favorite Batman.
And that's why I guess the Batman would probably be ranked in top three, that 2022 film,
Yeah, so we
because he's
did an episode. Yeah, I mean, we did an episode on Batman on film, and we ranked our live action Batman movies, and one was Dark Knight, and then I don't remember the order what I put of the Batman 89 and Batman Begins. And I'm like, I guess it just depends on the day. Two, three, and four will constantly flop,
yeah,
but the Batman's in the mix
yeah.
because I loved that movie. I made it a goal that will be the when it was in theaters, I'd see it more than any other movie I'd seen in theaters, and I
Hmm.
accomplished that goal.
It's a good
Um,
goal. Congratulations,
yeah,
man.
thank you. Yeah, I don't have my award yet,
Yeah, no.
but yeah, like you just kind of said, I mean, it was grounded as much as you kind of can be. It's Batman, it's Batman doing Batman things. A real man would be dead after night one if he really did all that,
Yeah, so good.
but there's enough grounded stuff.
I'm right with you. Like when it comes to just like I'm not big on team ups. And like when it comes to like I don't mind Justice League, like I'll watch it. I did watch it, even when it's paired up with Superman, but my preferred is always going to be grounded
Yeah.
Batman doing the detective work.
Yep.
And like Long Halloween is like my favorite, number one. I don't mind when Robin's there. Like I'm not a Robin hater.
Yeah.
It's just preference, right?
Hmm. Exactly.
And Jeff Loeb just seems to know, like, his stories are always it does a detective work, right?
Yeah.
And there's a lot of twists and turns, and I thought that he nailed it. I that like
Hmm.
that's what I love about Batman is, he's got that attitude. It's like it's not like, it's the opposite of me personally, where
Hmm.
I'm like, I don't need anyone. I'm like,
Yeah.
no, I want my friends. I want my wife. Like, you know what I mean? Family, come on
Yeah.
over. Right. Whereas he's like Mr. Independent. He just has
Mhm.
Alfred and then like, but I'm not big on like I guess, like, when it comes to like, I guess there's not a comic book adaptation or comic book, but Batman and Robin, like George Clooney slash Batman, like his interpretation was just not it, right? It's
Mhm.
just very
Yeah.
friendly. He had the whole, I don't know, Bat family, and that's where I start to lose interest. But I don't know. Hey,
Yeah.
there's a lot of people like Sean Murphy knows how to get the Bat family right,
Mhm.
right? Like you read his stories, you're like, I love this. This is fantastic.
And it's still like a Batman story, and it's in a funky time right now, like with comics of there's such an emphasis, and it's almost like, to me it feels cheesy and a little cornball. Like there's so much writing of Batman or of Bruce. He's just like, I need my family. Where's my
Yeah.
family? Son, I love you, son. And it's that I'm like, what are we doing here? This is
Yeah.
just seeming way too just ugh. Like,
Yeah.
that's the best word I could think of when talking about it with Pete. It's just being like, oh, bleh. And then
Yeah.
people are all like, we deserve to have sidekicks in the movies and stuff. I'm like, you are a Batman fan, right?
Mm,
Because we should have Batman in a Batman movie and then just let the story go where it goes. Like the
yeah.
focus should be that it's a Batman story.
Absolutely. Now one last question here.
Sure.
Uh, is there one comic or animated movie that you would like to see adapted into live action?
Ugh,
I know we're talking just about
this
we
one's
want a
tough.
grounded Batman, but now it's
Yeah.
like I don't know.
Holy crap. Um, man. I don't like I think a lot of people would think that like Hush because that's a heavy hitter that hasn't had much or something, but I don't think that story is as clever as it thinks it is.
Mhm.
Um, and I know that's me going out against my man Jeff Loeb right there, but I don't think it necessarily is. I don't think that Hush is that fascinating of a villain.
Mhm.
Something's missing there. So that I don't know. I don't know. That would be one. I'd almost want to say Noel just for the pure Christmas time of it all, which I know we've gotten Batman at Christmas, but I can always have more. I want Batman at Halloween in live action. Oh, we just got that a little bit, but I think if they can match the tone of Bermeo's story of Noel, influences of that, that would be great. But man, see, but that's bringing Superman into a Batman movie in live action. It's not fully grounded, but it kind of is. Oh man, Dominic, I don't. This one's tough.
It's it's a go. Honestly, that was actually a pretty good choice, right? You think about it, and you're like everything that Batman's going through, he's being pretty much like at right near the end where he's been pretty much beaten to a pulp. He's like at a daze, and then you have Joker just dragging him. Like that's the one image that sticks out of my mind. Man, like this is, and it's kind of it takes a take on Ebenezer Scrooge.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my
Christmas
gosh,
Carol.
Christmas Carol, and that like that whole concept. Like I watch Christmas Carol every Christmas. I
Yeah.
love movies that take place like Batman Returns. It's a staple. Like I love it movies that have snow in it or like especially a Batman film, right? And
Yeah.
the last Batman Christmas film came out in 92. So, you know what I mean? 20 years, 30. Oh my God.
30.
30
Yeah, we're at
years.
32
We're at
years.
32 years. Oh
It's
my
crazy.
gosh.
All
Time
right, I've
flies.
got two better answers though, because as you were saying that, because I'm like, oh, I feel like I'm saying this one, but that wasn't your question. It was like, which one? I also kind of feel Morrison's Arkham Asylum story. I think
Yeah.
Batman in Arkham, which the Ben Affleck movie that was rumored to be featuring a lot of that really intrigued me and excited me for like the gothic horror aspect of that story and have Batman thrown in the mix with that. I think that could be great. And then one of my top 10 stories is called Batman Prey. Have you read that?
Yeah. No, sorry, I have
Okay.
not.
Oh, you
I've
haven't
read
read
Asylum. I
okay.
haven't read Prey. I've read Asylum.
Okay. Batman Prey, which was in the Legends of the Dark Knight title in the early 90s. Uh that is a great story. A wonderful story. that one could almost be just boom, translated from comic to screen. Track that. I think that's on Hoopla somewhere. I
Yeah, it
hope so.
is. I'm
Okay.
pretty sure I have like a list of favorites, so it's
Yeah.
like, yeah.
And it's on there. Okay, good.
Oh yeah.
So there you go. I just gave three answers.
There,
The one was with stipulations. The other two, as is.
I think when it comes to oh, what was your first name? You had Prey
Noel.
and Noel.
Oh,
Yeah, so Noel, like, and you got like pretty decent villains. Like, it's a whole story and concept that you could just, I don't know. And obviously, you can add to it because the story, like, you can transfer it from paper right into a
yeah.
film, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then Arkham Asylum, I'm right there with you when it comes to Arkham Asylum. Like the game, even like is just it's like one
Yeah.
bad night where he's just in an asylum, an insane asylum, and he's just like, okay, I got to go get the Joker and save Gordon,
Yeah.
right? The only thing, like, well, when it comes to the Arkham Asylum book, right? Like you even have like pretty much all the villains. You have Two-Face, who's got now even more personalities in there, and I don't know. I feel like that dark, gritty, and like horror aspect would really work well. That's
Yeah.
why, like, I actually like if the rumors are true with Ben Affleck, like that would have been a pretty cool story to adapt.
I think so.
Um,
Yeah. I think so too.
Ryan,
Yeah.
thank you so much for being on the show and being
My
so
pleasure.
gracious with your time. Now, we're gonna come to the end. So if you like, plug away if in case people don't know where to find you.
Sure. Well, I appreciate the invite. I do, because we got to talking more in depth because you won this year's Batman Book Club Bracket Challenge. You were
Yeah.
the winner.
Yeah.
You're the champ.
You know,
Where's your trophy? I don't know. I need to send one to you.
this was it.
There you
Have
go.
it
Yeah,
right
it's a printed
beside
out
me.
bracket.
There we
Nice.
go.
Yeah. Well done. But yeah, I appreciate the invite. This was fun. Figure out a time, have you come on my show if you'd like. If schedules can line up, which they should, but we're adults and we're working, so it can be crazy sometimes.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I guess the latest episode that I dropped on podcast is like, I think wherever you could listen to podcasts, my show, the Batman Book Club's available. Latest episode was a bit of a, I don't know what you want to call it as. Like, it was a deep pull that Garrett came up with, the Minnesotan. But yeah, sorry, the socials, anywhere you want to follow, just follow at the Batman BC. So there we go. It's kind of stumbled there.
Now, listen, I highly recommend you all tune into Ryan's podcast, the Batman Book Club. You'll also find him on Batman on Film. Definitely worth a listen to. And I feel like with your podcast, what makes it so unique, it's not just like, oh, it takes place in a certain date. Like you can listen to episode 1, you can listen to episode 50, you can listen to episode 75. And like, it doesn't like you can just continue. It's not like you're feeling left behind. It's a comic. You want to learn about it, you want to hear about it, you can just tune in. Right? There's
I,
so many, right? There's 200 of
I
them.
appreciate that. And I meant to say it at the top too. That was definitely a goal, is because I wasn't going for news based or anything. Well, news based stuff gets like, it's so fast moving that it's
Hmm.
quickly old.
Hmm.
And I'm like, I want to put something out there. It's evergreen. You can listen to it anytime. Day one, month one, after a year, it's always going to be there, and it's never going to be too old, you know? Because you also have to have expectations that if people want to keep up and read it, you need to give them time to be able to read it before listening to you spoil it as well. And then
Hmm.
also within, I hope like that somebody just gets one thing out of it that maybe they didn't know. So that also goes into, like you said, the preparation stuff. I do, and sometimes I fail to try and find something, some fun nugget, whether it's an interview piece or something about its release or something, anything, that could be, at least somebody could be like, well, that was pretty interesting.
I do get that actually pretty much every single one, even with like the interviews where you have like Kelly Jones or you had Sean Murphy. I think you even had Clay Murphy on, if I'm not mistaken. But like every single one of them, like, and Sean Murphy's wife, Katana,
Oh yeah, Katana Collins and then Clay McCormick, because
and
they
and
worked on the White Knight tie-in book.
and like the
Yeah,
nugget there
yeah.
was like, like she takes great pride
Hmm.
in the kids aspect of
Yeah.
that story, right? And I'm like, no
Hmm.
way. And it's like, she had big say in that, right? And that's
Hmm.
pretty sweet. But thank you very much. I appreciate your time. And My name is Dominic Unica, and this is Beyond the Bat Signal, signing off.